So our first discussion topic today, it's what fictional universe would you want to live in? Tyler, we'll start with you. What was your answer?
All right, so I went with Star Trek just because Earth is basically a utopia in that show.
Okay.
And let's be honest, my odds of being like a superhero in the Marvel universe or a Jedi or a Force user in like the Star Wars universe, very, 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 very small.
But don't you think it would still be kind of cool living in one of like a Star Trek or a Star? Or well, you already said Star Trek because I guess you get the technology then, right?
Yeah, everybody
And that's kind of the one of the selling points there. I mean, you could technically travel if you wanted to space, right?
Yeah.
We got people coming in hot with their answers already here. We've got Luigi. He says Star Wars universe. See, that's where I would have gone. I mean, that would have been my immediate reaction would have been the Star Wars universe. Frank says the Playboy universe. That exists. You just have to move to California, Frank. Ortiz says the Flash. Lots of metahumans, but only if I could be a metahuman. See, and that's where this question can be construed differently. Is it one of those ones where, okay, if I'm going to be in this universe, am I guaranteed to be a Jedi, or am I guaranteed to be a superhero of some kind? Am I going to have powers, or am I just in that universe? Remember that show that they had? I think it was a CBS show, and it followed people. I think Alan Tudyk was in it, and it was all about living in a world with superheroes, but none of these people had superpowers. It was just kind of following them and their everyday life as all the stuff is happening around them.
Is that where he was like Bruce Wayne's cousin or something like that?
Gosh, I always forget that he does so much stuff because he's not only an actor, but he's also a phenomenal voice actor, so he's in a ton of things. This would have been... It had to have been at least since 2015, right? Now, Twitchy Twist says, I got to hop on the bandwagon with Luigi. Star Wars universe would be neat. That's where I'm looking.
I just want to remind everybody that Jedi are celibate.
Well, they're supposed to be. But you don't have to be a Jedi. You don't have to be one. That's why being a Mandalorian's pretty badass.
I'm just throwing that out there, you know?
Ortiz says you could be a Sith. Oh, Powerless was the name of the show.
Powerless. Yeah, I think that's the one where he's related to Bruce Wayne, I'm pretty sure.
Man, Danny Pudi was in that show? How in the world did that thing not last a lot longer? 1 season, 12 episodes. That was it. The premise was it takes place in the DC universe and follows the adventures of Emily Locke as Director of Research and Development at Wayne Security, a subsidiary of Wayne Enterprises based in Charm City that specializes in products of ordinary humans who are poised to be victims of the battles between superheroes and supervillains. And you are right, Alan Tudyk, he played Vanderveer Van Wayne, the boss of Wayne Security, who is the son of Vanderveer Wayne Sr. and the cousin of Bruce Wayne. He aspires to work in the Gotham office with Bruce. The character was created by Batman's original writer, Bill Finger, with artist Sheldon Moldoff, and made his first appearance all the way back in 1962 in Batman Volume Number 1, number 148. Frank says, as annoying as it is, let me get that Fast and Furious universe. Do all the crime you want, get arrested, but let go. Get rich and fast women. That is well put. And Tyler, you're right there. The Gray Jedi, that's the best option, where you're right in the middle there between the Sith and the Jedi. Did I ever tell you that that's what I was hoping they were going to wrap up the Skywalker saga with? Is that they were going to realize that the only way to defeat the Sith is to realize that having the Jedi as the way that they are almost creates the Sith?
Yeah, I mean, that's been an argument like for a while now that the Jedi are actually the bad guys.
And that's kind of the way that I was leaning there is that not necessarily that they're the bad guys, but the Sith wouldn't exist if the Jedi didn't exist. And then you look at so if you're not familiar with this, the Gray Jedi are essentially Force users the way Jedi and Sith are, except they're kind of in the middle.
They are not ideological.
Exactly. And Tyler, you made another good point in the chat there. You said there are only 2 Sith and people are constantly trying to kill you and replace you. Well, I mean, yes and no. I mean, if you go back all the way to like Darth Bane times, he was the one that created the rule of 2. So before that, there was a bunch of Sith. And you could be a Force user. You know what I mean? Although somebody had a brilliant answer over on Reddit where this question was posed. Did we lock in on that? Should I just call the show Stealing from Reddit? I mean, isn't that essentially what we're doing here? Like somebody here had the exact point that you made, Tyler. The top answer was, depends on if I can choose my role in that world. The vast majority of options and statistically, the vast majority of options and statistically, I'd be a peasant in terrible conditions worse than my actual life. Now, somebody has a brilliant answer to that. Right underneath says, that's why you go with, it's the main D&D world. Is it Faerun? Farron, there you go. So this person says, if you aren't born with some magical powers, just go study hard and become a wizard. And if you can't cut it doing that, go swear a paladin's oath or make a warlock's pact to get magical powers. Or to get a magical power sugar daddy. So, what do you think?
I mean, it's a pretty good argument, actually, because it doesn't... Although, on the other hand, usually the adventurers, everybody, normal person has stats 10, 10, 10, 10, 10. But the people who go out and adventure, they get they have superhuman strength or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, like a strength of 18 is ridiculously powerful. You're like He-Man on steroids. So again, you need some sort of, you need to be super intelligent, super wise, super charming. So, you have to have something going for you before you can actually qualify for one of those quote-unquote classes.
Well, and it's also, it's like in Star Wars, if you don't have the proper midichlorian count, they're not going to allow you to be a Jedi, right? I guarantee that in the Star Wars, in the galaxy far, far away, there was some dudes out there that were trying to find a way to pump midichlorians into normal people to give them force powers. Like, if that's legitimately where Star Wars canon wanted to go with that, and it's like, oh, look at this midichlorian count. This is amazing. He must have been spawned by the Force. If that's the way they're going, I guarantee there's a doctor working on that crap. Am I wrong?
Nah, it makes sense.
See? Told you. I mean, I guarantee there's plastic surgeons over there, too, that are trying to make people look like other alien races.
Oh, dude. You should play
Christ,
Shadowrun.
we have people here on Earth trying to do that now.
Right. So, in Shadowrun, there's actually... We'll talk about that offline. It's a long conversation.
Twitchy Twist says probably an Empire doctor, just like the Nazis. I don't think an Empire doctor would want to do that, though. Unless they could limit it, because the whole point would be to create an army strong enough to defeat your enemy, but not strong enough to overpower you. You know what I mean? Somebody else over on Reddit for this question. If you could choose to live in one fictional universe, which one would you choose and why? Probably a children's show or cartoon universe because of how safe and carefree they are. You all are saying Star Wars or The Last Airbender, but I would rather live in a world where death and poverty literally does not exist, and I could eat cake for breakfast without getting diabetes.
Also a great point.
Yeah. Somebody right below that said, Daniel Tiger it is then. In the land of Oz, somebody put that in there in the books, you can't die. Ortiz says, I want to change my answer. You know what would be an interesting one that I never really saw in here? Because it said, I mean, technically the question is wrapped around what fictional universe, but it could be a world, it could be really anything. What if you lived in Springfield with The Simpsons? You kind of get that when you go to Universal Studios. They've kind of developed that. I remember we went to Moe's Tavern. We ordered my kid a Flamin' Moe. Spoiler alert, there's no alcohol in the Flaming Moe's.
Oh, I was about to call Child Protective Services.
Yeah, no, there's no alcohol in the Flamin' Moe's that you can get at Universal Studios. It's essentially, the way they have the specially designed cup where on the bottom they put dry ice. So when you pour it was just like an orange drink, I think is really all it was. But when you pour it in there, it hits the dry ice and it causes the steam to come out. Ortiz says Itchy and Scratchy Land sounds fun. Ugh. Dangerous. Somebody else over here on Reddit says, I would live on Wisteria Lane because everyone there has a big, beautiful house and is thin and gorgeous even in middle age. Frank brings up a really good point. He says, I wonder how long Disney will let Universal Studios keep the Simpsons stuff there. It's all going to be based on contracts, man. Kind of like with Sony and Spider-Man and all that other stuff. Once that thing's up, I wonder if Disney's going to yank it and just be like, hey, just drive it south to Anaheim and put it in there. Another answer on here. I think this is the one that you said last night, Tyler. Futurama.
Did I say that?
I thought you did. I thought you mentioned that you wanted to live in Futurama because it was kind of close to where we're at.
I don't know. It's because of their the professor builds a time machine that they can go forward in time.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's right. It was the World of Women.
Yeah.
I was like the Amazonians, and he was like, no, not that one.
Yeah, I think it's the very last episode.
The person in here writes Futurama because it's similar enough to reality that I can figure it out, but different enough to be interesting. Didn't they have the suicide booths in Futurama?
Yes, they did. That's how we were introduced to Bender.
The person in here goes on to say it's not inherently interesting, and every global cataclysmic problem seems to resolve itself or just be forgotten about. Yeah, Frank says Disney World is building up a lot down there. I could see them doing a Simpsons World in Orlando. Oh, yeah. See, that's where it's different for Disney World and Disneyland. Disneyland, they're out of room. I mean, they would have to buy up those properties around Disneyland because they're running out of space. Disney World, they have a massive amount of land down there. And they're just kind of developing and developing. I remember the last time I was at Hollywood Studios, this would have been probably about a decade ago, I think. And since then, they've added a ton of stuff. Because when you were in Hollywood Studios, it was really, that's where the Fantasmic show went on. That's like the big show at night. You had Hollywood Tower of Terror. You had the Aerosmith Rock and Roller Coaster. And a few other things kind of throughout that park. But that was it. And since then, they've put in the Toy Story Land there. I think that's where they also put in Galaxy's Edge. It's pretty dope. Ortiz says, I love how Bender takes his quarterback in the suicide booth.